Awesome. I'm here with my good friend Austin Chase. He's my chiropractor, my friend. He's definitely helped me in my aspect, but I've learned to respect him and love him in his business and everything that he's done. So, Austin, I'm grateful for you being here and you taking the time out of your day to hop on my podcast.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Awesome, dude. So I want to kind of trajectory of what I want to do is I want to basically get to know you on a personal level, have people understand who you are as a person. What's led you in your life, what drives you to succeed, what makes you happy, like the keys to success and everything that you know. So let's just, get right into it. I want to kind of talk about your childhood, where you grew up. Did you feel like you had a normal childhood? Did you have some, traumatizing things that happened to you as a kid? Kind of what was your experience, of growing up in the life of Austin Chase?
All right. So I was, born and raised here in Tampa, Florida. So I'm a Floridian, one of the few left here. And I was in a home that was very low income, and we struggled a lot, to be quite honest. And there were months where we were like, okay, are we going to be able to pay for our bills? Is there going to be anything left in the bank account? And then start all over again the next month. And so that made times where things were really tense. And there was a lot of arguing and a lot of, oh my gosh, what are we going to be doing? And so we really didn't come to our mom and dad for very much because we knew there wasn't much, lots of rice, beans. That's what was for dinner. We had the occasional meat, which was uh it, just not expected because it was just too much, right? It was a rarity in our house just because we didn't have any money. But as time we went through time. My dad, he made a little bit more money, and then my mom started to work, and so we went from low income to maybe medium low income, and we were able to start to get into different things in life, and which then led us into being able to do sports and things like that, which I really enjoyed. I was a wrestler. One of the main reasons as to why I got into the profession that I'm in now as being a chiropractor, which can completely change my trajectory in life of where I was going to go, because I got injured, and the medical community was great, but it wasn't correcting the problem because I was still having crazy health issues, migraines, blackouts, and things like that. And I didn't want to be that person that was stuck on different medications for the rest of my life, like they were telling me. And so my mom was a rock star. She didn't she took the advice, but she didn't. She wasn't married to it, and she was open to trying different alternatives to help me as a child, which I was very grateful for. My brother and sister, my sister's still here. My brother's out picking up potatoes from the farmland, and all that kind of good stuff. And so that's a little bit about my childhood and how I grew up. And in my mind, I was like, look, I don't mind struggle, but I don't know if I necessarily need to struggle like that in my family and my kids. And so I decided just to look what can be a good career for me. And I checked out all the different medical professions, and I didn't like the the way the persona of the medical field because they always seemed very depressed and not really pleasant towards other people. And then I looked at the chiropractic and I was like, man, these people are always alive and they're always happy. They're very personable. Anything you need, they're there for you, within reason. And they're not afraid to say hi and, get down on your level and accept you for who you are, where you are, and just be excited for you. And just, they just living and loving life.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And I want to talk more about your childhood. So what age were you low income before you reached medium low income? Like what was the ages of growing up?
From about 0 to 16.
Okay. So 16 years old, you were low income, and then at 16 you got a little bit more. So in that age, as human beings, right, when we lack either money, food, um, stuff like that, did it send you in a trajectory where you were causing trouble, maybe going out and having to find ways to eat and get more food? Did it lead to you having to do things in essence of survival?
Probably to the embarrassment of my mom. I would always go ask friends for food and have no remorse for asking, and then she would, sheepishly sit in the corner and just be like, why are you doing this?" Right? Because my friends would have the fun food, right? The mac and cheese and the chips and all these different things, and here I was stuck with a PB&J on a hot dog bun, and I was like, well, we had that every day this week. And so I would, I was a little bit of a bully sometimes. I would go ask kids for their lunch money, and go get one of those stuffed cookie sandwiches from the school lunch line that I could only get if somebody else provided the money for. And we would ask for free stuff whenever we went into stores, and sometimes we would walk out with a free dozen donuts from Krispy Kreme that was right around the corner from our house. And my mom was like, "Where'd you come up with that kind of money?" We're like, "We just kind of asked and asked until they gave it to us."
Yeah.
Because we just wouldn't get it, and we were kids, and we wanted to get all that good stuff, or what we thought was really good stuff for us, and it was kind of embarrassing looking back on it, and I do regret asking, or being that little bully asking people for money. If you don't do this, and I'll do that, and they get a little nervous because I was a weightlifter, and I would always go ask the people who had chicken arms and chicken legs, and I was cooler than they were, so they would do anything for me just as long as I didn't beat them up.
Yeah. Well, so did that ever, lead you into any action of getting in trouble with the law, anything like that, or did you stay pretty much out of trouble in that aspect?
Um, there was one time we were at Walmart. For the most part, I stayed out of that realm, thankfully. But there was one time at Walmart where my buddy was, you know, trying to put some computer games in his pocket and take it out of the container, and I saw what was going on. I tried to do a little cover up for him, and they put me in handcuffs, saying I was accessory, but I was like 10 or 12 at that time, and they just were like, "Okay, don't do it again." And I listened, and I never did it again. But I've always felt bad for doing that, and leaving my friend in the lurch. But I didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. No, I mean,
So
so do you feel like that was like a life lesson though that allowed you to like say, "Hey man, I I don't want to be put in handcuffs. I don't want to go down that." Was that enough of a lesson to kind of set you like, "Hey, that's not stuff I'm going to go down and do."
absolutely, yeah. I was always nervous after that. I respected, law enforcement, and the people who have always been there to protect us. Um, just because I was nervous, I would watch the cop shows and I would see the people in the jail cells, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Even as a juvie, I was like, I don't want to get beat up in juvie either. Because I would see it on TV, and that like put the fire under my feet to become a better person and not to do that again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, that's good. I feel like a lot of people don't learn their lesson, or they learn their lesson too late. But no, it's awesome. Now, growing up, financial struggles were obviously your struggles as a family. It affects you in a lot of way. At
Mhm.
what age were you like, dude, I need to start making some of my own money, right? I'm tired of being poor. I'm tired of not having any freaking money. I'm tired of bullying people for an ice cream sandwich. Like, when did you make the decision that you're like, dude, I need to actually make my own money?
When I was 16, it was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing my own thing. We would do the occasional lawn mow, right? And I was able to drive, so I could put the lawnmower in my dad's truck and just drive around and cut lawns, right? But that got really hot, and I was like, man, I'm not cut out to do this. And so I taught voice lessons and I taught piano, and that paid me $60 an hour. And I was like, I could do this. I can be inside. That's not a problem. See people for 30 minutes, and I can make $60 an hour. Rock on. So at 16, I started teaching people voice and piano lessons and things like that so that I could make my own money. I had my own cash flow. And by the time I graduated high school, I had saved up around $10,000, ten to $15,000 in my bank account.
Yeah,
So,
from a kid that grew up with nothing, eating rice and beans, you know, growing up poor, low income, to all of a sudden from 16 to 18, you got 10 to $15,000, and as a kid, I understand when I started making money, right? When I was a kid, I started hustling to get my own money. I was like, dude, you felt rich. You're like, man, I got lots of money.
yep.
But what instilled you from 16 to 18 when you started making money? What was your thought process like? How was your thought process? Where you're like, dude, I can make money. This is something I can do. Let me keep hustling. And what kind of set you on that trajectory?
I just like the fact that I didn't have to go ask somebody for money, or that I didn't have an option because I couldn't pay for it. Right. And so that drive just kept me going, saying, hey, look, I don't want to get back to that other point of where I was of having to ask people for money, bully people into getting money. And so always having something in my pocket was fueling to me, or just the thought of saying, hey, look, I can go out with my friends and I can pay for my own meal, right? Even if it's at like a fast food restaurant, I can pay for that. Or if we go to something better than fast food, I can still pay for it. I probably won't want to pay for it, but I don't have to say no. Or I can go to the movies and I don't have to wait for my dad to get a paycheck to be able to ask him to say yes, right? So all those different thoughts of me looking inferior to other people, because I went to Plant High School and they're all, multi-million dollar families, and here we were one of those communities that had to be bussed in just so that they can have diversity at,
Yeah,
at schools, right? And I was in that neighborhood, and so just being able to say, oh yeah, I can go hang out with you guys, I can go do what you guys do because I made money, right? And nothing cost more than I never did anything that cost more than what I made, and I made sure I was like, okay, if we're gonna go do this weekend, that means I can't spend any money, but I'm gonna be able to go do that, or I have to go make that money, and I went and I made that money, just
yeah,
so that I didn't have to depend on somebody else. And the thought process was just huge for me just to make sure, hey, look, I don't want to have to depend on anybody, and that's what really kept me
yeah.
going.
It's that taste of financial freedom.
Hmm.
I've made a lot of money and I've spent a shit ton of money, right? Because I
Right.
have and I obviously we can relate, dude. I have PTSD growing up, right? Of just not having money, never having enough. Dude, I couldn't do the things people in my neighborhood were doing, right? I couldn't go to sport camps. Um, and that killed me as a kid. I was like, dude, just sad, right? And man, you get that taste of financial freedom, and it's like, dude, let's keep making more money. Let's do
Right.
this stuff because you're the man, dude. At 16, 17,
Hmm.
18, in high school, I always had money, so I would take my basketball team to McDonald's, and bro, get what you want, bro. Two for $5. I'll buy everybody burgers, and it was just like, it was that cool thing where you're like, dude, you had the ability to get a taste of that financial freedom, which puts you in a trajectory. So now let's fast forward a little bit. You
Okay.
saved up $10,000 to $15,000. You graduated high school, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, after high school, what was kind of your plan? You started making money, you started tasting financial freedom, and you came from the bottom. You understood, hey man, I can actually hustle and make money. What
Hmm.
did life, what did your next step look like in that journey?
So I went to college. I didn't want to go to college, but my mom was like, no, if you want to do something with your life, then you got to go to college. And I listened to my mom. She was that authority figure, right? I was
Yeah,
too scared not to do what she said, right?
yeah,
um, and just because I was afraid of her wrath, and so she filled out all the applications to go to college, and she wrote my essay, and she did all these different things. And I was like, I ain't gonna do that. That's just way too much work. I can just keep doing, what I'm doing and be just fine. And she's like, look, I want you to be able to make enough money so that you can live the life that you want to live, right? I don't
yeah,
want you to be confined because how much money is was your roof, and I was like, okay, that's fair enough. You just fill out everything, and I'll go. And so she filled it out, and we went to a church school because that's where she wanted me to go. I was like, let's go to UF, or FSU, the biggest party school out there, and in the states. I think it was UF or FSU at that time was the number one party school, and I was like, I got the grades, I can go there, that's fine, But she's like, no, let's send you out here with your sister to church school. I ended up starting a mission for the church that we go to, and sent me down to Uruguay, and you know that was an experience in itself. Just seeing, I thought we were poor. I thought we were living in poverty. But then going to a third world country and actually seeing their slums versus what we call ghettos here in the United States, I'd say that what we call ghettos here in the United States are actually some pretty good living in comparison to what I saw down there in South America. Like it was just throw up some tin sidings and that's a house, right? No bathroom. It was a community bathroom and a community shower if you got one. And people were a family of 7 I saw was sleeping in maybe a 5x5 tin shed, right, with a dirt floor, and they used cardboard boxes for beds, right? And so that really also put me into perspective as to, okay, what is really important in life. And family, I got out of that was family was super important, right? Material things are just material and they can be replaced, but at the end of the day, what's really important is family. And so I took that and I went to college. I graduated, I got married 2 years into it, so like I guess my sophomore year in college or something. And then by the end of that, I had a kid when I graduated in college. And my wife, when her name's Caitlin, but when Caitlin took me when I graduated, she took me back to Uruguay. That's where I served in my mission, and I took her to all the different places where we went or where I was located at, and she came away with that same vibe of, what, money's awesome, money's great, we need to make money to be able to spend money, but our main thing is, hey, look, we need to be able to make money so that we can make a difference in other people's lives, right? Because if we're not making money, they're not making money, how can we help them? And so that's what that's kind of like the basis of as to why, you know, a, a, a big reason as to why we make money, right, is so that we can give back to the community, and help those that are in need of help after seeing what we saw down in South America. And so, yeah, that 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 was a fun ride. It was a struggle, but we made it through. And then I went to grad school, and that was 4:30 in the morning, waking up to study because I refused to study on Sundays. I refused to study more than half a day on Saturdays, and I refused to study on Friday evenings just because family was huge to me. And the divorce rate in grad school was 50%. It didn't matter if you were married or in a long-term relationship, right? The divorce rate was 50%. And so I made that a huge priority. And I said, look, I'm willing to sacrifice here, 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 as long as you can sacrifice and do the other things, right? So Caitlin and I, we came in, we compromised, and I said, look, I'll wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll start my studies, and then we can have breakfast together as a family because that was important to me. But know that I'm not waking up with the kids in the middle of the night because I need my sleep to be able to then go to class, do my studies, and have a fresh brain. And so we did that. And I was one of 14 people that actually finished in 3.5 years instead of 5 years. And we started out with over 120 people in our matriculating class. So it was fun. It was hard, but that's kind of my journey after after high school.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love that, dude. A lot of life lessons. And I want to, there was a lot said, so I'm going to dive into each one, man. But one thing that you said that I wanted to touch base on before I forget is you going to grad school, right? You're literally going up against odds of divorce rate, odds of not finishing in 3.5 years. Like the odds were stacked against you, right? But
Hmm.
you created what I call annual success is called a POA, a plan of action, right? You
Hmm.
you sat down and you said, okay, I got this difficult task in front of me. How am I going to accomplish it and accomplish it successfully? And as a business owner, man, I said, I built the business, done a lot, but I had to sit back and create a plan of action because you have to be able to step back, hindsight, and say, okay, where can we improve? Where can we do this, and this to accomplish the goals? Right. And first off, in order to know that, you knew your goals. You knew, one, you didn't want your wife to leave you, right? Like you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't want to end grad school divorced. And you're like, look, I
Mhm.
want to get done and finish at the top of my class, right? I want to finish earlier than everybody, and I want to be damn good at you. So that's
Yeah.
important, man. I really like, that you came up with a plan of action to be able to say, look, dude, this is difficult. It's going to be hard, but I can do it. And how am I going to perform to the best of my capability? Create that plan of action. And I think when we create a plan of action as human beings and actually dial it in, we can succeed and accomplish anything.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. There was something on a podcast that has always stuck with me. Um, and it's, hey, look, if your competition is going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you better wake up at 5. And I wasn't always the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm probably still not the sharpest tool in the shed. So I had to put in more work than somebody else. So I'd be darned if, this person is going to outperform me. So I put in the work before those people even woke up. So by the time a lot of my classmates were awake, I had already put 2 hours in, and so by the time difficult thing like tests and exams, because we only had midterms and finals, and that was it. And so if I didn't perform and I didn't do my part, I wasn't going to pass. And I knew I had to wake up earlier than everybody else because, again, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love that. Now I want to go back to a couple, a little bit of your life journey and dive into it. So let's talk about this mission you went on. Now you came from the hood, the ghetto, poor circumstances, right? And you saw it, but yet you were even humbled when you went down to Uruguay and a culture shock. Talk me through about, obviously your feelings, right? Growing up, you're like, dude, I'm poor. I hate not having it. You get a lot of stuff you deal with, but then you go down to a third world country, and I want to talk about that initial shock, that kind of initial, humbling experience. How it was like from you that grew up quote unquote poor, here in the United States, then going down there. I want to talk a little bit more about that experience, that initial shock.
Um, Honestly, I was like, man, what? It was like a new world to me. This was something I have never seen before, and I was pretty much speechless. Like I told the person that I was with, I was like, look, what would you do if I just like left in the middle of the night? Like, what would you do? Because this isn't me. I was in this little space that was, I want to, so it was probably maybe three-quarters of what a normal hotel room is. And we had two beds, something called a bathroom, if you could call it a bathroom. There was a toilet and a shower head with running water. And most places didn't have a sink, so the kitchen, well, the kitchen sink was what we brushed our teeth with and washed our hands. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, I don't know how we can do this. Our stove was a propane tank with this little plate on top of it. And that was our stove and oven and microwave all in one. Right. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I know how to use a real stove. I know how to, like, our refrigerator was like a mini fridge, and I was like, what? And then we go into other people's houses, right? And sometimes their door was just like a bed sheet, and that was it. We go into their houses, and they were giving us everything. Everything that they had in their home, they were giving to us. And I was like, look, how could you afford to do that? And I'm, quote unquote, too good to live in the house that I was provided for, and I have a cement floor and I have a bed, you know? And so that was pretty humbling to see. Hey, look, these people have nothing, literally have nothing, and they're giving me everything that they have, everything. And so that started to kind of, I guess, work on my mind and bring me down to this, level of humility of, okay, what I have, I'm grateful for. And I will always be grateful for. Like, to this day, my Caitlin is like, that's all you need? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, like, I don't need much anymore. I just need a bed to sleep on because that's more comfortable. I'll sleep on the floor with a mat. That's cool, but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Um, and all I need is food, right? It doesn't even need to taste good. I'll still eat it,
Yeah.
right? Because there was a lot of times where all we had were just bags of yogurt, right? Or when I was growing up, all we had was rice and maybe some butter to put in it, And then going down to Uruguay, I was like, oh, I'm grateful for the rice with butter.
Yeah.
And then when we were invited to go eat at other people's houses, they were throwing in all this like premium meat, and I was like, "How can you afford this?" And they would give us all like the best of the best that they could afford, and that was that struck my heart. And I was like, "Well, why can't I? I love these people. I can't complain for my living situation." And I began to embrace it. People call me frugal, people call me a tightwad, and I'm like, I'll spend the money on where I think it's important,
Yeah.
you know. If I don't find it important, why am I going to waste my money on that?
Yeah.
Like I'll go spend money on my family all day. We'll go do activities, and that's cool with me, right? But I don't need to go anywhere, and I it's very difficult for me to spend money on myself.
Yeah.
I just, I just can't do it, right? And because one, I don't really need anything after living in Uruguay. I'm like, well, I just need the necessities of life. Everything else is just cush, right? And
Yep.
so if I don't have it, I don't have it. And people are like, how do you not live without this? I'm like, well, why would you live with it? You know, people are like, well, don't you need X, Y, and Z? I'm like, look, well, I'm with the public, so I need some nicer clothes, and so I'll spend money on my clothes so that I'm presentable, But if it were up to me, I'd be in basketball shorts and t-shirts with flip-flops all day, but I can't do that because who's going to trust me with their health in a t-shirt and shorts, right?
Yeah.
That's just not professionalism. And so that taught me, I mean, once I opened up my eyes to see what really life was about, you know, it wasn't about the material things that I was like freaked out about when I first got down there. I learned to live with, okay, I'm going to wash my clothes on stone and water with my hands. It took me all day, but I did it,
Yeah.
and the natives, they're like, "Hey, you know what? We'll take care of that." And I saw what they did, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was awesome." I was super grateful for them to then take that burden of washing my clothes away from me because one, I super sucked at it. And they got it done within a fraction of the time that I could get it done. But they wanted to do that, and I was like, okay, who in their right mind wants to do my laundry?
Yeah.
And so all of that, seeing all that has just brought me to today of, I'm just grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to, I had pancakes with sausage with my kids this morning, and that was fun, and they
Yeah.
were happy, and that's, I'm okay to wake up at the time I wake up to see their smiles on their face. I don't need much more.
Yeah. No, and I love that, man. And I really think, what you tie into is humility, but gratitude. Um, because gratitude, I think, is one of the biggest contributors to success. Because no matter where we're at, we always have so much to be grateful for. You know, I get told, a lot, why is everyththing fine for you? Why are you
Mhm.
always okay? Why is everything good for Brad? Even when shit hits the fan, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, dude, I got a
Right.
lot of stuff I got to do. But I believe a lot of it, man, just stems down to gratitude. When you're grateful where you're at and what you're doing and who you are, like, man, that's going to go so much further because we're always going to have trials and tribulations in our life. But you'll also realize someone out there, one, has it worse. I was driving down the road yesterday when I picked up my sales guys, and I see this dude with a broken foot, dude, walking on it, and it's mangled, bro. And I'm like, damn, man, like, and you feel for that person. You're like, you know what, man, like, yeah, you know what, I have things I go through, but someone out there's got it worse. And when you step
Mhm.
back to take a second to be like, you know what, man, there's someone out there that's got it way worse than me and that struggles way more than me. And when you get to see it firsthand like you do, no matter where you come from, it's going to put you in a place of gratitude, but a place of like just happiness, man. A key to success
Yeah.
and a key to happiness is just being grateful. Grateful for who you
Mhm.
are, where you're at, what you've accomplished, where you're going.
Yeah.
And that right there will change everything.
I'm with you, man. So Caitlin, she's doing this course, and so everything gives off a frequency, right? A wavelength of some sort. And the research has shown that gratitude has the highest frequency wavelength of being. And so, like you were saying, gratitude plays a huge part in your success. Like you know, when you walk into a tense room, you can feel it. Like like you, people are like, man, you could have cut the tension in a room with a butter knife. That's how bad it was. Or you go into this like lively party where everybody's happy and you can feel the energy in the room,
Mm-hmm.
right? You feed off that energy. And so
Yep.
if you're working from a state of gratitude, that is the highest frequency you can work from.
Yeah.
And it changes your perspective in everything. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, this situation sucks, but I'm grateful that I can get out of it. I'm not going to be, you. I don't look at someone just stole my car, right? And I'm like, well, okay, that sucks, but it was just a piece of metal and it's materialistic. I'm grateful that I have the funds to be able to now go out and get a different car, and no one was hurt, right? No one was harmed in my family. Someone just needed to have my car that they didn't own and do some really stupid stuff in it. You know, they pay the consequence? Absolutely. But that's all it was. But I was super grateful that now I don't have to worry about, okay, I have to really have a horrible life to now try and find a different car. No, I'm grateful that, hey, look, we've worked so hard that I have the comfortability of going and buying a new car. Not like a brand new car, but a new car to us, and it's not going to put us over the edge,
Yeah.
you know. So grateful to have that. Grateful, my son, he just got a new pocket knife this weekend, and he cut his finger, and I was like, dude, I already knew that was going to happen. You're just going to get too excited. I taught you how to use this pocket knife, and then you just went out and did it on your own, and you thought you were cool. You cut your finger. We had to go to urgent care. We had to do all these different things, but my wife and I talked about it. And we're like, before before we were at this spot, we would have been like, okay, how can we come up with this $300 to $500 to now go fix his stupid finger because he didn't want to listen?
Yeah.
And now we're like, man, I'm grateful that he didn't cut his whole finger off. We just paid the medical bill right there without a problem.
Yep.
And we were grateful for all the lessons that we learned, persevering through the different things of owning your own shop, right? Because it's not easy. And now we're at a point where we're like, okay, cool. Sucks that you cut your finger. I wish it never happened, but we don't have to worry about it financially. We can go take care of it without a problem.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Now I wanna start getting into business now, right? So you graduated
Okay.
college, you went to grad school. Now, was
Mhm.
grad school specifically for chiropractic, or did you go to grad school, then you had to go to chiropractor school?
So it was specifically for chiropractic, right? So I did my undergraduate and then was supposed to be a 5 year graduate program. And I did it in 3.5 years because I was like, I got a family to feed. And we graduated. And so it was specifically for chiropractic.
Okay. Now, after graduating, I know a lot of times in the medical field, different things, you have to do internships afterwards. Did you have to go do an internship, or were you able to jump right into, working as a chiropractor?
I had to do 6 months of internships. And so I did that. I completed that. And I ended up staying with the last internship as an associate doc,
Okay.
uh,
Now,
6 months
where
after
was
graduation.
okay, where was that at, and how long did you work as an associate with him?
So it was here in Tampa, and I worked for him probably around 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, did you work for it? Because obviously you own, Nuvita Chiropractor, you own your own practice, your own business. But did you go from him straight to your business, or did you go elsewhere before? What was your journey to opening the business up?
that's a great question. So I went and we were promised all these different things at that first clinic I work with. And so, yeah, I was hustling, I wanted to meet my end of the bargain because that's just what I do, right? I
Yeah,
put out tests and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be here, right? This is your expectation of me. This is your expectation of what I need to be doing. And so I went and I did this, right? Now my expectation is if I do this, then you meet me where you say you're going to meet me. And it was like this, right? There was a big gap,
yeah,
and I was going out and I was marketing and I was meeting people and bringing people into the clinic and trying to make different connections with other professionals and relationships and so that they would send us patients and things like that. And I was like, hey, look, I don't have the patient base that you have. So we need to send a patient over here so then they'll send us, 2 or 3 times as many as what we send. And they're like, nah, we're going to go somewhere else. And I was like, okay, well, I just spent 6 months trying to schmooze this person over to build a relationship so that we can have a good working relationship. And now, in a matter of 10 seconds, it's crushed, you know, because you didn't meet me where you said you were going to meet me. Right.
yeah,
And so, after a lot of that, and, it's just not really driving well of where I thought, excuse me, where we should be going or where he was thinking he should be going. And it's just like, look, man, this is it, right? I got to move on. And he was like, look, best of luck to you, but I think you're going to fail because you don't know how to work hard and you don't know what business is all about. And I was like, all right, man, thanks for the words of encouragement. See you later.
yeah,
And then I went and I worked for a different company for about 6 months. And I went to Caitlin. I was like, it's time to open up our own clinic so that we can sing the song ourselves, and practice to our own tune, right? And we don't have to be underneath somebody's grasp because I was like, man, this is not what life's all about, you know.
yeah,
And our end goal was to help other people, and I was like, I'm not making enough money to fork out a bill for somebody else or to help support a good cause the way that we want to support a good cause. And Caitlin, she's like, man, I've been waiting for years for you to say this. And so I guess the timing just wasn't right. And I just had enough at that point. I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do it. But we had no idea what it was like to open up a clinic. I had had business classes, but their business class was a Saturday and Sunday once a quarter. and they're like, okay, you need to use this company to draw out your floor plan. You need to use this company to get all your equipment from. You need to use this company to do all this stuff. And I'm like, they're coming up with multi-million dollar offices. And I'm like, where am I going to get that kind of money? Like who's going to, like, I'm coming out of school with debt and it's not like $2,000. They're going to be like, yeah, okay, next. And I was like, oh, shoot. And so we found a mentoring company who was like, okay, you can do it with under 100 grand. I was like, I can do that,
Yeah.
and they taught us, okay, for this, here's a great, you need this, you need an attorney, you need to have this paperwork, you need to do this. This is how you market to your community. This is how you can get 100 people on your books before you even open. And I was like, well, let's do that, and I can open up a clinic for under 100 grand. That sounds good to me. Versus in
Yeah.
school, they're like, yeah, you'll need to spend $2 million. I'm like, first of all, I ain't gonna be able to ever pay that off.
Yeah.
You know,
Or let alone get that loan, dude. We can't even
get
get a
that
loan.
loan.
For 2 mil.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, we'll do it this way. And we did it that way, but it took a lot of work. We can sacrifice from our kids. We can sacrifice from, making memories and, just going out and grinding for hours and hours at screenings and just knocking on doors of, hey, look, we're a new business in town. Can we set up a meeting, of different professionals and things like that, just to try and generate business. But when we opened with 100 people on our books for that first week. And we went and we bought all used equipment. And we still have it today because it works great. And one of the chiropractors that we bought it from was like, hey, you need to buy all of my patients, and if you don't do it the way that I did it, you're not going to be successful. And he wanted another 100 grand for his patients, and I was like, look, man, we're good. And he's like, look, just for the first like 6 months, you're going to be happy to get 20 people through your door. And I was like, thank you for your advice. I appreciate it. In our first week, we had 100 people walk through our door. But did it take a lot of time and effort? Absolutely. Did that journey suck? Yeah, it did. You know, our relationships with our kids really wasn't there because we were I was gone before they got up, and I was home before after they went to bed.
Yeah.
And they would come into the office, but it was helter skelter when they came into the office because it was crazy. And
Yeah.
but those were some fun times when the kids came into the office. Patients loved it, and so I was like, okay, we can do this. But outside of the office, they didn't know us,
Yeah.
right? They didn't know me, and it was weighing on them. It was weighing on us. There was a lot of different outbursts that they never used to have once they lost that connection that they were used to.
Yeah.
And so we were very grateful when that period of time left.
Yeah.
You know,
No, man.
and
Yeah, no, I love the story of business because, right, dude, business is a ruthless game. You know what I'm saying? Like, business is a ruthless game. You have two chiropractors that you worked with, and they basically told you, yeah, you're gonna fail. Good luck, right? And
yeah,
but dude, I love the story because one, you basically told them to stick it, right? Like, I'm gonna go do it, right? So I opened up our pest control company. There's 9,000 pest control companies in Florida, right? So I get asked, what the hell do you think that you're going to be able to make it, right? Coming into this. And so and
mhm,
again, you got odds stacked up against you, but that didn't deter you because I think, man, when you have your plan of action, but you also have in the back of your head, you have a why, right? You knew why you're doing it. You wanted to be able to help people, give your kids a life a lot better than yours growing up, I'm assuming. And you
yep,
wanted to be able to have that success. and that why drove you through all the bullshit. Because, dude, I was talking to this gentleman I met at an entrepreneur event here in Tampa, and he's like, "Oh, I just graduated college with my degree in entrepreneurship," and I was like, you don't go to school to be an entrepreneur. Like it made me laugh because like an entrepreneur, you're it or you're not. Because like for you, man, you wanted to open up and you had to jump through hoop after hoop after hoop. They're like, oh, you need 2 million for this. No, but then you were able to find a person that like, hey, you can get it done with 100 grand. And you're like, oh, I can make that work. And then they're like,
Yeah.
hey, you'll be lucky to get 20 people through your door in the first month. And you're like, screw that, and you're able to find avenues and work and grind and grind and grind and grind and grind to be able to get you to ultimately where you're at today. And that hustle, man, isn't taught. That drive isn't freaking taught. The sacrifice, going through hell, and dude, it sucks. You know what I'm saying, man? It sucks at sometimes, man. There's a story, I really haven't told a lot of people, but I was sitting outside my office when we needed technician shirts. They were $198 for like 10 technician shirts, right? And our card got declined. And I'm sitting there, right, in my car, and I started crying. And I don't cry, bro. I don't show emotions. And I'm like, how are we gonna do this, bro? Like, I got an office, I got employees, I got trucks, and my card gets declined for $198, right? And just that weight on my shoulders. But you know what? I felt those emotions, and I'm like, no, we're doing this one way or another, man. We're gonna make it through to the other side. So I really appreciate that journey, man. And your sacrifice to getting to where you're at.
Yeah, like you said, it's not an easy road. We just went through a couple years of, well, the whole world just kind of crumbling, and then the financial problems here in the United States, and that puts a lot of people see chiropractic as a luxury, right? Let me try and get out of pain or stay out of pain, but I can live with the pain,
Yeah.
right? Or, it's so much more than just pain in reality, because we work with the nervous system and it controls every system in your body. But for 2 years, people saw it as a luxury. And so we went from seeing over 300 patients a month or a week, down to half. And, that was like pretty eye opening. I'm like, oh, shoot, how are we going to do this? But we kept grinding and we kept pulling out of it, and so here we are. I know a lot of docs personally who had to close their doors, unfortunately, and because in those areas they had to close down their businesses for months at a time. And it's really difficult to have a mom and pop shop closed for months at a time and to pay your bills. You know,
Yeah.
we and people, like, so my family depends on me, but I have two other families that aren't mine that depend on their paycheck too. And
Yep.
so we were charging them, and we kept them all on staff too, but we took a less of a draw because we're like, okay, we took the bare minimum during that time so that we could pay for their paychecks, right? And we're like,
Mhm.
oh shoot, I hope I have enough money, right, in the bank. Every time we were starting to see that the savings go down, 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 and down every month because we weren't making what we needed to make. And I was hoping and praying every month that our card wouldn't bounce, or we had to tell the people, "Hey, look, we don't have any money to pay you anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
to fire you." But we made it out of those 2 months, or those 2 years. They weren't fun, but we did it.
Yeah, and it goes back to that drive, man, and that perseverance, and that why. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this?
Mhm.
Because, dude, there's times in life that it sucks, right? But circling around, man, to gratitude, being grateful for what you have, and then also having the drive, like, and the positive outlook, like, yo, I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna make this happen, and I'm gonna go to any lengths possible to make it happen. And that's how business is done, man. That's how survival of the fittest, saying, hey, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, right? The no option mentality, man. I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive, and I will survive. So no, dude, I love that story. Now we got about 10 minutes, and I
Yeah.
want to dive down into chiropractic now, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in chiropractor. They think it's, they think chiropractors, uh, like a placebo, right? It doesn't really work. It's just a mindset. So I want you to talk about, chiropractic, how it's benefited you, how it benefits people, and what do you do at Nuvita that's different? Kind of your approach to the business and why you do chiropractic.
Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was injured in high school in a sporting event, and that left me with some nasty migraines and blackouts. And I went through the traditional medical route of here, take this medication, take this, take that. And none of it was working. At one point I was popping like 5, 6 pills a day of different opioids and different things like that at the age of 16. And my mom was scared. I had no idea about what opioids could do to you or how addictive they could be. My mom was scared for me, right? And so they had no answers to our questions. And it was just take another pill, let's up your dosage here, things like that. And so my mom took me to what we call a principled chiropractor who is just like straight, okay, let's look at your spine for what it is and let's correct that problem, right? That's because your body is made up of curvatures and they're made that way for a reason. And once you start losing them, then you start to see different systemic problems like digestive issues, heart problems, breathing problems, fogginess, and things like that. And so she took me over there by recommendation from my aunt. And after the first adjustment, I never had a migraine since that adjustment to this day. It took me around 6 months to get rid of some lingering headaches that I had. Uh, but she fixed the top bone in my spine, which is called the atlas. It was at 0 degrees and it's supposed to be between 20 and 30 degrees. And so we fixed that angle and took the pressure off the whole cord. And I've never had a migraine or a blackout since. Like the medical professionals, they were telling me I couldn't sing anymore, I couldn't weight lift, and I couldn't wrestle anymore. I was cool with not wrestling because I still had PTSD over what had happened and everything like that. But I enjoy getting in the weight room and I love singing. That's where I met my wife, was in men's choir. She was the pianist and I was the singer. I've sang with Andrea Bocelli twice because I enjoy singing. And so that's what we do here at our office, right? We take postural x-rays to say, hey, look, your spine looks like this. Here's what normal is supposed to look like, and this is what it's going to take to get to normal. And we've seen people go from taking low chemo drugs once a month, $1,000 a shot, because their rheumatoid arthritis was so bad, losing her hair, losing her immune system, and things like that too, not having to take those shots every month, right? Her hair is growing back and she's got more energy than she knows what to do with. Or we've had somebody saying, hey, look, I've got diabetes. People say I'm not going to get my A1C over, under 11. The only thing they change is coming in. We get their spine moving the way they should. The body reacts. Now it's at a 6.1 without changing anything else, right? But that's what we do. So we focus on the spine. What does it look like? Because structure equals function, just like in a business. If the structure of the business has a faulty pillar, it's going to tumble at some point, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have all the pillars there to have a successful business. Same thing with the body. The joints have to be moving. The spine has to be there, has to function the way that it's supposed to function, or at some point, something's going to go awry. And so, I mean, my grandmother, she she's been seeing a chiropractor for pretty much her whole life. She sees me about twice a week now, but she's still ballroom dancing. She's still doing the flamenco. She's still getting thrown in the air, splits on the floor. Like she just last weekend she was hiking in Yellowstone, and because she keeps her body active and doing what it's supposed to be doing. We are a fine, well-oiled machine if we take care of it. Like you can buy as many teeth as you want. However many sets of dentures you want, you can buy, but you cannot replace your spine.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean, I think that's important, right? Because as I started getting more knowledgeable, dude, I visited you, right? And I've dealt with a lot of stuff. And dude, just understanding like there's so much out there for you to do besides pills, right? Dude, I believe in massages. Understand? I've had a great sports massage guy that understands the muscles. Stretching
Mm-hmm.
has changed my life. Like you, first time I visited you, you're like, "Hey, I'll adjust you, but do these stretches," and I'm like, and I got to lay on this neck thing for 15 minutes a day. I'm like, bro, I don't want to be doing this shit. And but you understand, man. There's so much out there for the body, and like you said, your body's a well-oiled machine, and just being able to take care of it, because you only get one body, man. And there's so much out there besides pills, and big farm, dude. I could talk to you for hours. You know what I'm saying? Because you get into everybody take a pill,
Mm-hmm.
take a pill, take a pill, and although I do think modern medicine's great, I think there's definitely times that you need pills, but there's so much out there that
Absolutely.
people need to look. People need to look at their options, who they can see. Different simple things, man, of exercise, diet, stretching, and getting massages, visiting a chiropractor, and especially someone like yourself, man, that's a professional. That dude, the first time that I met you, and I came in, you know, it's that relationship. You're like, dude, how's it going, man? It's great to meet you. Hey, let me find out what your back actually looks like, and you explained it to me, right? And it's like for
Mm-hmm.
me as a pest professional in pest control, I explain to the customer exactly what they're dealing with, exactly how we're going to, and I come up with the plan of action for that person because I'm the professional. And that's exactly what you did, man. You looked at me and you're like, here's our plan of action, here's where we're gonna attack, and we're gonna see our progress every couple months, and you're actually gonna see that number one, it works, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
feel better. And so, dude, I love our relationship, dude. I love your professional thing, but dude, I appreciate you hopping on here, man, and talking about your life, your business, and I wish you nothing but success, dude, and to keep on grinding because it's a brutal world out there in business, man. Like I said, survival of the fittest. So I wish that, man, and I appreciate you hopping on here and doing the podcast with me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Anytime, and let's
Perfect,
keep
man.
this
So I
going.